Exchange Commission. We will commence the accompaniment once everybody is standing and comfortably on their feet. Thank you. Let's begin. Thank you very much. Can we remain standing for the opening prayer from Commissioner Mantiziba?
Let us bow our heads and pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we come before your throne of grace this morning. We are grateful, Lord, for the gift of life. We are grateful, Father, that we are here this morning. We thank you, Lord, that as we gather for this annual general meeting, you are with us. Father, we are reminded in your word that if you do not build a house, the laborers labor in vain. And so we thank you, Father, that you are building this institution we call the SECZim. Lord, we acknowledge that every achievement that will be recorded today in the past, from the past year, only came from you, Lord, and the work of the people that are in this room. Lord, we ask that you bless our proceedings, and we ask, Lord, that even as we deliberate, you grant us your wisdom and understanding so that we conclude these deliberations on a positive note. We ask that you guide our chairman and every contributor so that our discussions may be conducted in truth, order, and unity of purpose in the name of Jesus. Father, we ask, Lord, that you for clarity in everything that we are going to be discussing, Lord, and that every decision, everything that will be done here, Lord, will be for the good, not just of the SECZim and the markets, but of our nation at large. Father, we pray that we lift up all our stakeholders that are here, our investors, all members of the public, Lord, who place their trust, not just in SECZim, but in the market itself. May we never take that trust for granted, Lord. Father, we place these deliberations and everything that is going to take place in your hands, and we are so grateful. And at the end of the day, may all honor and glory be unto you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please take your seats. Thank you, Commissioner. May I invite Mr. Mutete, who will be assisting me this morning, and those of you in attendance with sign language interpretation. Mr. Mutete, can we give him a round of applause? Good morning, Mr. Mutete.
Good morning, and how are you?
Thank you. Very well. I will be running through the salutations for this morning, but immediately thereafter, our roving microphones will be sent round to our statutory attendees so that they themselves will be able to confirm by name and organization or ministry represented for the express purpose of our minutes and our recording. My name is Farai Mpofu. I am the manager responsible for investor education and public relations at the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe. I warmly welcome you to our AGM this morning and hope that you are comfortable and ready to participate actively and to contribute towards the continued formation of a healthy capital market and a healthy commission that oversees it. Honorable members of Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance and Economic Development, representatives from the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, officials from the Office of the President and Cabinet, officials from the Corporate Governance Unit, officials from the State Enterprises Restructuring Agency, officials from the Accountant General's Office, the Auditor General's Office, capital market intermediaries, listed entities, investors and distinguished stakeholders from across the capital market, members of the Securities and Exchange Commission, board, and those I will enumerate by name at this stage, and then others will be given the roving mics. Beginning on my left, in no particular order, we have Commissioner Manimanzi, Commissioner Mantiziba, Commissioner Trivanu, Commissioner Mdenda, Commissioner Muzondo. Jumping over to my right, we have the chairman, Mr. Patel. And then I may as well also introduce the members of management who will be making presentations, starting with the acting chief executive, Mr. Mshamba Dope. On his right, Mrs. Matambo. And on his left, Ms. Madende. Thank you very much. And I continue. The Investor Protection Board, represented here by Justice Ziambi and Tendai Nqetu from Minerva, the administrators, fellow regulatory organizations and related institutions, including IPEC, DPC, PAAB, RBZ, and Mtapa Investment Fund. Management and staff of the Commission, the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. If there are any omissions, they are not intentional. I welcome you all, and please, you'll forgive me if I've made any omissions. I will now request that the mics go in order so that we cover the first two tables on both sides for the confirmation of our statutory members present. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kulakwache Sata, Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion Representative.
Good morning. Daswa Elvis from the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion.
Good morning, everyone. Nyamero Forbes, Corporate Governance Unit.
Good morning. Lina Shakata from Corporate Governance Unit.
A very good morning to you all. My name is Lincoln Liwayo. I'm the Member of Parliament for Chipinge East. I'm also the chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio on Budget, Finance and Investment Promotion. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Opa Choka from the Office of the Auditor General.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fortunate Jere from the Office of the Auditor General.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Onesmo Musi from the State Enterprises Restructuring Agents, SERA. Thank you.
Pleasant morning to you all. My name is Tafara Matanga from State Enterprises Restructuring Agency.
Good morning, everyone. Mafunga Desmond is my name. I'm from the Accountant General. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you all. Thank you so much. If there are any amongst you that feel perhaps you've been omitted from the statutory attendees we have just covered, please raise your hand and the microphone will come to you. I see no hands. Thank you very much. Chairman, I believe that the House is in order, and I would now like to hand over to you. Are there any omissions, Company Secretary? Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Farai. Firstly, Honourable Liwayo, apologies if I've got the pronunciation incorrect, representing members of Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance and Economic Development. Welcome. Representative from the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion. Welcome. Officials from the Office of the President and Cabinet. Officials from the Corporate Governance Unit under the Office of the President and Cabinet. Welcome. Officials from the State Enterprise Restructuring Agency. Welcome. Officials from the Accountants General Office. Welcome. Auditors General Office. Welcome. Capital markets intermediaries, listed entities, investor and distinguished stakeholders from across the capital markets, the media fraternity, members of the Securities and Exchange Commission Board, the Investor Protection Board, fellow regulatory organizations and related institutions, including IPEC, DPC, PAAB, RBZ, and Mutapa Investment Fund, management and staff of the Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the annual general meeting of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe. I wish to thank you for taking the time to attend this important meeting. Your presence reflects your continued commitment to the work of the Commission and to the development of Zimbabwe's capital markets. The AGM comes at a critical time for both the Commission and the capital markets. The environment in which we operate continues to evolve, driven by economic developments, technological innovation, emerging financial products, regional integration, and the need to mobilize long-term capital for national development. As a Commission, our mandate remains clear: to regulate and supervise the capital markets, protect investors, promote market integrity, and support the development of fair, transparent, and efficient markets. This mandate is central to building investor confidence and ensuring that the capital markets contribute meaningfully to the Zimbabwe's Vision 2030 and the National Development Strategy too. Today's meeting gives us an opportunity to reflect on the performance of the Commission, consider the annual report and financial statements, review progress made, and deliberate on the strategic direction of the organization. As we proceed with today's agenda, I encourage open, constructive, and focused engagement. The decisions and discussions we have today must continue to position SECZim to effectively discharge its mandate and contribute to national economic development. With those remarks, I once again welcome you all to the annual general meeting and wish us fruitful deliberations. Thank you. Moving to the agenda and trying to move through the agenda fairly swiftly if we can today, we will now proceed with the formal business of the meeting. Corporate Secretary, please confirm whether quorum is present.
Chairman, the mandatory attendees of the meeting in terms of Section 33 of the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act are all present. The meeting is properly constituted.
Thank you, Lina. I declare the meeting duly constituted. Corporate Secretary, please confirm that due notice of the AGM was given to court in accordance with the applicable legal and governance requirements.
Chairman, the notice was first published in the Herald of 23 June 2026, giving 21 days notice, and hard copies were also distributed to statutory stakeholders, and the notice was also published on SECZim social media handles. The notice was duly convened, Chairman.
Thank you very much. May I have a proposer and seconder for the adoption of the agenda, please? Thank you very much. Moving to the minutes of the last annual general meeting, the minutes of the last AGM were circulated to members together with the notice of the AGM. Unless there are any corrections or objections, I propose the minutes be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Thank you very much. May I have a proposer and seconder to confirm the minutes of the 7th AGM held on Monday, 30th of June, 2025? Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much. The motion is carried and the minutes are confirmed as a true and correct record. Moving to matters arising, I will ask the acting CEO for an update on the key matters arising from those minutes.
Good morning, Honorable. Thank you, Chair. Matters arising. The first one pertains to the properties, the new offices, which now SECZim is occupied at 2 Hendricks Way at a cost of $1 million, supported by our parent ministry. And then the second matter pertains to amendments to the Securities and Exchange Act. The Commission has received technical support from FCA UK in partnership with IOSCO, and the process of reviewing is taking place, and we've submitted the changes to the ministry. And then the third matter pertains to staffing levels and capacity constraints. Recruitment efforts continue to address critical vacancies and strengthen institutional capacity. Staffing levels, they are now at 76%, but also as the Commission forges ahead with digital transformation, there is going to be optimization in terms of resources around human capital. And then the fourth matter arising pertains to Capital Market Institute. Progress has been made with around the establishment of the Capital Market Institution through stakeholder engagement and partnership with the National University of Science and Technology, and also the development of the e-learning platform. So I think that concludes matters arising, Chair.
Thank you, Acting CEO. We're now moving to agenda item 2, the corporate reports. Just to manage time, I propose that all reports be tabled and then questions be asked afterwards. We will have sufficient time to query some of the statements made. I will present the Chairman's update, followed by the Acting CEO's report, the finance report, and finally the compliance report. So if all is in order, I will make my report. Honorable, I will ride on protocols already observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my honor to present the Chairman's report of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe for the year ended 31st December 2025, and to set out the direction in which the board intends to drive the Commission and the capital markets in 2026 and beyond. This AGM comes at a defining moment. Around the world, capital markets are being reshaped by digital finance, artificial intelligence, tokenization, changing investor expectations, geopolitical uncertainty, and increasingly demanding standards of regulation. Global growth remains subdued. Financial conditions remain sensitive to geopolitical and commodity price shocks, and developing economies continue to compete intensively for scarce long-term capital. At home, Zimbabwe has shown resilience, supported by agriculture, mining exports, and remittance inflows, while relative price and exchange rate stability has improved the operating environment. Yet liquidity constraints, high funding costs, limited market depth, delistings, and the need for long-term productive capital remain real challenges. These conditions do not diminish the importance of the capital market. They make it more urgent. Zimbabwe cannot finance its transformation through bank lending alone. Our capital markets must become a stronger engine for infrastructure, industry, agriculture, housing, energy, innovation, and enterprise growth. They must mobilize domestic savings, attract patient international and diaspora capital, and create credible opportunities for ordinary citizens to build wealth. I assumed the role of chairman in November 2025 with a strong sense of responsibility and equally strong sense of possibility. I came determined to work with the board, management, government, and the market to accelerate reform, modernize regulation, and to unlock the potential of Zimbabwe's capital markets. I'm optimistic about what we can achieve, but optimism must be matched by urgency, discipline, and execution. My vision is clear. SECZim must become a modern, decisive, technology-enabled, financially sustainable, and internationally respected regulator. During 2025, the Commission continued to execute its statutory mandate despite a demanding operating environment. It supervised market institutions and intermediaries, protected investors, and promoted fair, transparent, and orderly markets. The results show a functioning compliance framework, but they also identify areas where supervision, training, enforcement, and remediation must be intensified. The audited financial results show a balanced and solvent position, and more of that will be guided in the finance report. However, our revenues remain vulnerable to changes in trading volumes, delistings, fee reductions, and the transfer of activities from the domestic market. The board will therefore prioritize a sustainable funding model that gives SECZim the resources required to discharge an expanding mandate. Diversification is one of the focus points. Financial sustainability is not simply an internal administrative issue. It is a precondition for credible regulation. Government support was instrumental. A grant of $1 million US enabled the acquisition of the Commission's property at number 2 Hendricks Way, Avondale, while an additional 2.67 million ZIG supported relocation expenses. This investment gives SECZim a stronger institutional base and demonstrates the strategic importance government attaches to an effective capital market regulator. We're grateful for that support and remain committed to converting it into improved services, stronger oversight, and measurable market outcomes. The legislative reform agenda is one of my highest priorities. The Commission's advanced amendments to the SEC Act to strengthen its supervisory, investigative, and enforcement powers, enhance investor protection, improve corporate actions oversight, and modernize the framework for emerging products and markets. With technical assistance from the UK FCA, working in partnership with IOSCO, the amendments were refined and resubmitted to the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development, and Investment Promotion. We must now move these reforms from paper to law. I'm eager to see a legislative framework that equips SECZim to act quickly, proportionately, and credibly. Full IOSCO membership is central to this agenda. It is not a ceremonial badge. It is a gateway to stronger cooperation, information sharing, enforcement capability, investor confidence, and international recognition. The board will drive this process with urgency and sustained engagement. Digital finance is another frontier on which we must lead rather than follow. The Finance Act No. 7 of 2025 conferred a mandate on SECZim in relation to virtual asset services providers with effect from 1st January 2026. The Commission responded by developing draft VAS rules and submitting them to the Ministry. Our objective is not to suppress innovation, nor to permit innovation without safeguards. It is to create a disciplined environment in which new technologies can grow while investors, market integrity, and financial stability remain protected. Properly regulated tokenization, blockchain-based products, and digital assets can lower barriers to entry, broaden participation, reduce transaction costs, improve cross-border investment, and create new channels through which the informal sector, young people, and small businesses can access capital. We will therefore pursue a balanced framework that is innovative, risk-aware, and aligned with international standards. Beyond the regulation of virtual assets, the board wants a comprehensive digital market plan for the capital market. To improve market compliance and efficiency, we have launched a digital transformation strategy and implementation plan that will significantly enhance the prudential and regulatory environment for both the Commission and the capital markets industry. This must bring together digital onboarding, electronic licensing, online regulatory filings, interoperable market infrastructure, real-time or near-term surveillance, consolidated market data, digital investor education platforms, and secure channels for investor complaints and redress. We must also explore how digital identity, eKYC, tokenized securities, and responsible use of AI can improve access, efficiency, and supervision. The Commission itself must become data-driven. Licensing, supervision, compliance monitoring, market surveillance, enforcement, and reporting should increasingly be supported by RegTech and SubTech solutions. Market development must proceed with equal determination. Zimbabwe needs deeper equity and debt markets, more listings, stronger collective investment schemes, viable REITs, infrastructure bonds, green bonds, diaspora instruments, asset-backed securities, and other carefully structured products. The capital market should be visible in the financing of infrastructure, housing, agriculture, mining value chains, and productive industry. Our success must ultimately be measured not only by compliance reports, but by capital mobilized, enterprises financed, jobs supported, and investor confidence strengthened. I want us to particularly focus on encouraging development of diaspora-focused products and solutions that provide a strong alignment of the engagement and impact to our national development. The Zimbabwe diaspora are a vital part of Zimbabwe's rise, and we must prioritize such goals. The introduction of a debt capital market for fixed income products is being developed, and this will provide a strong foundation for these initiatives in line with our national development plan. The Commission is also preparing the regulatory foundations for environmental securities and carbon markets. Zimbabwe possesses significant natural assets and opportunities in conservation, renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and climate-resilient infrastructure. These markets can attract climate finance, but only if they are credible. Products must be properly structured, disclosures must be reliable, ownership and verification must be clear, and investors must be protected. Financial inclusion must become practical and measurable. Capital markets cannot remain distant from ordinary citizens. Women, youth, and rural communities, SMEs, and the informal economy. The launch of the new SME exchange, SECZim, is a critical development and milestone to empower these segments to seek new avenues to raise capital, to support and enhance their competitive development. The proposed Capital Markets Institute, initiated through the Commission's collaboration with the National University of Science and Technology, offers an important platform for professional development, research, certification, and market literacy. A market cannot grow faster than the knowledge and competence of its participants. We must invest in skills across the ecosystem, from regulators and intermediaries to journalists, educators, and investors. With the formalization of the regulatory framework of the Victoria Falls IFSC, we have reached a significant milestone as a country to provide a foundation to encourage regional and international institutions to utilize its framework to raise capital and enjoy the benefits of an offshore financial center. We applaud this initiative and look forward to deep collaboration between the defined separation of offshore and domestic capital markets. VFX provides an alternate stock exchange to attract foreign institutional capital, to support listed entities in the development in Zimbabwe and the region as an offshore stock exchange under the VFIFSC. Zimbabwe operates under multi-currency monetary policy, and we endorse the criteria-based focus the RBZ is monitoring and key criteria that must be met before the decision to move towards a monocurrency is determined. This disciplined approach provides a strong foundation to build trust and confidence in the capital markets. The Commission takes note of the significant delistings and migration from the ZSE to the VFX, and we are considering a number of key measures and principles that need strengthening to assure a more balanced and efficient domestic capital market. We need to assure a level playing field in all classes of investment categories, that our institutions can invest on a consistent basis at all times under a multi-currency regime. We thank PAAB for the tremendous work done earlier this year to ensure listed entities comply fully with IFRS on financial reporting based on functional currency, the USD, being the dominant trade currency in Zimbabwe. I'm pleased to say that all listed entities have complied with no auto qualifications to their annual financial statements for their current reporting cycle from December 2025 onwards, against over 80% having had qualified audit opinions the previous financial year end. This provides a strong assurance to investors, domestic and international, on the reliability of the reported financial statements. As part of the road to monocurrency, we support the introduction of special reporting under monetary policy for such groups to separately present the equivalent financial statements in ZIG for monetary policy tracking purposes. We will seek to support and encourage the adoption by the market of the new sustainability reporting standards being proposed for adoption in Zimbabwe. Governance and leadership remain fundamental to delivery. During the period under review, the Commission experienced important leadership transitions. I acknowledge the appointment of Commissioner William Manimanzi as our Vice Chairman and the renewal of Professor Mabuto Sibanda's term as Commissioner. The experience and commitment strengthened the board at a time when the Commission is entering a demanding phase of reform and execution. The board appointed Commissioner Tich Mushamdapo as acting CEO for the interim period with appropriate governance arrangements, including his temporary recusal from the board and committee functions. The board is actively working the appointment of substantive CEO. This is a priority because the Commission requires stable, accountable, and energetic executive leadership capable of translating the board's strategic direction into measurable results. We also thank Grace Berenjena and Commissioner William Manimanzi for stepping in as our acting CEO and acting chairman during the interim period, showing strong leadership and guidance during the course of the year. Our reform agenda also requires the right people. The expansion into digital assets, carbon markets, sophisticated enforcement, data analytics, and technology-enabled supervision demands skills. We must attract, retain, and continuously develop professionals who understand both the law and the market, both regulation and innovation. Human capital is not a support issue, it is a strategic capability. Looking ahead, I want the market to understand that this board is ready to move. We will accelerate the ASCO program. We will press for legislative reform. We will advance the VAS framework and the digital market plan. We will strengthen supervision and enforcement. We will pursue sustainable funding for the Commission. We will support new products, deepen the debt market, prepare credible environmental securities framework, and expand meaningful investor participation. I'm convinced that Zimbabwe has the entrepreneurial energy, natural resources, human talent, and institutional foundations required to build a vibrant capital market. The opportunity is real, ladies and gentlemen. What is required now is confidence.
collaboration, and decisive implementation. SECZim must be a regulator that says yes to responsible innovation, no to misconduct, and always to transparency, fairness, and investor protection. I thank the Honourable Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investor Promotion, the Ministry, the Office of the President and Cabinet, fellow regulators, development partners, market institutions, listed companies, intermediaries, investors, and all our stakeholders for their continued support and constructive engagement. I also thank my fellow commissioners for their guidance, commitment, and willingness to confront difficult questions. I extend special appreciation to management and to staff for their resilience and dedication during a period of transition and expanding responsibility. The year under review was one of resilience and foundation building. The period ahead must be one of action, reform, and transformation. I am positive about the future, eager to drive the work before us, and confident that together we can build capital markets that command trust, mobilize development finance, and create opportunity for Zimbabweans. The board is ready. The Commission must be ready. The market must be ready. Let us move with urgency, integrity, and purpose. I thank you.
Chairman, can I offer you a hydration break and make a quick announcement? Thank you very much. In the theme of the current FIFA ongoing competition, hydration breaks seem to be common in the summer region of the Northern Hemisphere. Let me welcome in person Honorable Chidua, who walked in as you were making your delivery, Chairman. Welcome, sir. And also online, let me confirm that we have two commissioners, Magombedze and Swanda, who have joined us virtually. And I think with that announcement, I'm looking at commissioners. I did see it's possible that you had some messages on your phones. I think, Chairman, those are the two announcements I wish to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Farai, for the hydration break. And I'd like to acknowledge and welcome Honorable Clemens Chidua, who has just joined us. Thank you. If we can move on, I'd like to call upon the acting CEO to give his report.
Morning. Okay, I think while they're still preparing the slide, you can clap hands for me just in case I fumble it. Okay. So basically, in terms of our report, what I'm going to try to do here is, I think the letter is written in the documents that you've seen, and I think also the letter is written on the PowerPoint slide that we'll go through. But one thing that I would want to do as I deliver is also infuse the spirit of what we're trying to achieve as SECZim. So I think in terms of the presentation about SECZim, why are we here, the mandate, the year in review, our strategy, alignment to end the S2, but most critically, the road ahead. We are here now. What do we have to do as we forge ahead? So in terms of us, there is that overarching vision that we want to get to in terms of the vision, the mission, the core mandate, and our values. And when you look at our values, I think the chairman's statement literally, I think in word and spirit, captured accountability, fairness, competence, integrity, teamwork, and most fundamentally, innovation. And I think in the times that we are in, the times of change, innovation becomes so much critical. And as I present, you understand why I say so. And I think it's based on that adage to say, in times of change, learners inherit the world, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. So innovation is going to be our anchor as we progress. In terms of the 2025 programs in alignment, I
I'm seeing our colleagues from CGU, whenever we mention Vision 2030, whenever we mention NDS2, the alignment that we have as an organization, then zooming in into the programs with governance and administration, capital market development and regulation. And within that, we then have the outcome to improve governance and administration. The other one is to improve regulatory compliance and market development. So the understanding that we have as SECZim is to say for each and every minute that we are there at the commission, our contract is inherently to the people of Zimbabwe. And that is the vision that we have as government, to say we want to get to a place where we have an upper middle income economy, but in that process, we do not leave anyone behind. So as we execute our mandate as a capital market regulator, this is the framework upon which we execute it. And then in terms of the strategic pillars, we have the first one, obviously, will be regulatory excellence and market governance. The second one, digital transformation and innovation. The third one being market development and financial inclusion. The fourth one is institutional sustainability and revenue diversification. We can never overemphasize this. And I think as we move from a whole government perspective, where we are saying we eat what we hunt, it is also important for us. Yes, we celebrate, and we are very thankful for Mr. Zata for the grant that allowed us to purchase the property. But forging forward, we need as a commission to say, what is it that we're going to do, executing our mandate, but ensuring that we're a sustainable entity that is diversified revenue. Then human capital and institutional capabilities. I think as a knowledge-based commission, we can never overemphasize the criticality of human capital and institutional capacity. International positioning and strategic partnerships. I think the chair has alluded to IOSCO. The matter in terms of international positioning, for example, IOSCO, you're not necessarily looking just at us as the commission, but also our exchanges. It will then open up for them to be part of the World Exchange Federation. So international positioning can never be overemphasized, but also in terms of international positioning, as we seek to implement digital transformation, we're looking at placing ourselves as a regulatory, even as a regional advisory for other regulators. So these are the strategic pillars that we are moving, we're moving with in 2025, but we're also forging ahead as we progress. Then in terms of the macroeconomic environment for 2025, I am with the Minister of Finance here and players within the economic sector. I am literally preaching to the choir. As you know that there was significant growth based on agriculture, mining, and also diaspora remittances with the 6.6 GDP growth and inflation, single-digit inflation, which is, I think, which is something that is quite commendable. And I think from a capital market perspective, you are then looking at the removal of the capital gains tax, which actually then lifted up capital market activities. And then just moving on to market turnover, I think the numbers that you see here, we'll get to share the presentation, but also it was driven by reduction of the CGT from 2% to 1%. So we then had significant growth within the markets. But I think what is important, and I think the spirit of our submission is to say, relatively, our market grew. But what we want is also absolute growth in terms of just expanding the products that exist within the market, but general growth of the capital markets. Because when you look at other contexts, when you look at other countries, even when you look at South Africa, the capital market size is bigger, 3 times bigger than their GDP. So this is also important that whenever we celebrate the growth, it's important that we put it into perspective. That also allows us to understand the level of room that we have in terms of growth. Then the listings, I think in terms of listings, the chair is elaborated it well to say there has been in the spirit, and I also say I commend the minister, our honorable minister, and the Minister of Finance for the implementation of the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. The spirit behind the implementation of the Victoria Falls Exchange is to optimize FDA, to increase our options in terms of foreign direct investment. But what is then important and critical is for us to look at a way that listings that there is no, for lack of a better term, cannibalization to reduction of certain listings from ZSE to VFX. And as the chairman alluded, there are going to be some solutions that will be suggested towards that. And then in terms of funds under management, I think there was also a growth based on the policy around the policies that had been implemented, and then license market intermediaries. I think we grew from 220 to 230. 11 editions, and there was one single cancellation. And then in terms of supervision and enforcement, there were those number of inspections that were done from a prudential perspective, from an AML inspection perspective, but also a regulator. Definitely, one of the, just on a side note, I think the conversation that once happened was saying, when we set as a team to say, what options can we be able to look at in terms of revenue diversification? And I think one of our team members then said, let's try to look for penalties and increase that revenue line. But the truth of the matter is penalties only happen when people are caught on the wrong side. Us as regulators, we do not. Definitely, we can use the whip, but we prefer to use. We can use the stick, but we prefer to use the carrot. And then, in terms of just moving forward for compliance, our index was quite high with a target of 85. That was it was relatively high. And then, in terms of just the index form, it was improved. Our index, ML index, improved from 0.4 to 0.339, which is media low, which just means that I think our markets are cleaner. And then in terms of innovation within the context of 2025, there was, and I think this embraced the whole of government approach, where we are saying, from a government perspective, from a higher education perspective, we are saying there is education 5.0. So the first component around innovation was the schools, it was called Code First Schools competition, where we gave specifications for the systems that we wanted from the schools, and they developed the systems so that I think we had prototypes, and these are actually the foundation for the digital transformation activities that are now currently taking place within the context of SEC. And then also we laid the foundation for the regulatory sandbox. I think in terms of our reports now in 2026, it's now in full swing. And then just towards the end of the year, we also had the VASP framework coming, the VASP law coming into play, and then 100% of digital submission in terms of licensing. Then I think this is us just. This was for National University of Science, because I think we did two systems, Prudential and AML, NAST 1.1 and HIT were also one the other one. So in terms of financial performance, I think our FD will delve into this further. And then in terms of infrastructure and institutional capacity, I think we mentioned the grant that we received from from the Ministry of Finance, and now we are literally, for all purposes and intents, landlords. And this is so this is our new building. These are our new offices. Every one of you is welcome. So it's that part of Avondale which is in Mount Pleasant. I think you will see it when you come. All right. In terms of governance, I think we now have. Okay, can we just clap for my chair? So Chairman Patel joined us in November 2025. And in terms of renewal, we also want to extend our gratitude as SECZim to Commissioner Manimanzi for acting as the chair, and also congratulate him on his appointment as the vice chair. And also congratulate Commissioner Banda and Commissioner Chitanda, who have since left. And then in terms of executive arrangements, I think someone was jokingly saying SECZim is slowly turning into Hollywood because it's acting after acting. But but still need to be resolved. Then I think just moving on now in terms of people, technology, and institutional capacity. So this is for 2025. Our employee satisfaction index was at 69. And I was trying, and I am trying not to mention, because it's not for this report, but for 2026, our satisfaction index was at 90%. You may clap if you. All right. Then in terms of ICT resilience, ESG as well, we are pushing. And I think one of the things that may be very important, as the chair mentioned, in collaboration with PUB, there were no adverse opinions in terms of all the listed entities. And then just touching as well on ESG, we are looking at, I think in collaboration with PUB, we're looking at actually improving generally how ESG, from a ESG reporting, but also even ESG certification of the practitioners and those people who are going then to be going into institutions, because it mustn't be a case of someone just waking up and saying, I'm now an ESG facilitator or trainer. I think we need to put sufficient guardrails on that. And then in terms of investor education, we can never overemphasize on this point. An informed investor is a protected investor. So everything that we do from a SECZim perspective, the foundation is education of the market. And I've spoken to my honorable chair to say we want also to come to Parliament. We want to come to Parliament to be able to start from there in terms of policymakers, so that people understand what is it that people do in the capital markets. I think we have three financial legs. We have got, the monetary the monetary component and Reserve Bank. Everyone knows, and even if you don't want to know Reserve Bank, the moment you get into town, you see the tallest building. So Reserve Bank is covered. Then IPEC, even if you don't want, you always have to insure your car, or even insure or assure your life. So in terms of capital markets, there's a significant, I think, field and space to be covered in terms of investor education. And going forward, as alluded by our chair, we're going to be using all fronts, digital fronts, but also just going now. The strategy that we had as well was to say catch them young, but now we're going to go on a very vibrant perspective. And also, in terms of just investor education, obviously therein lies the Capital Markets Institute. But what we also want to do is, as we are looking at revenue sustainability, we believe that education is quite key. I am very sure, I bet, I'll eat my head if we come up with just even capital market fundamental courses, I am very sure that members here are going to, at least if it's $5, $10 or $50, you guys will be able to even subscribe to that. So we are going to have a component in terms of investor education, which is free, but also there's need to have a component that goes deeper, that we invest further to get the knowledge out there. But also on investor education, there is a symbiotic relationship between investor education and reaching out to our diaspora. So that at least we prevent these investment scams, but also our diaspora, for the 2-point-something billion that they bring, part of it is channeled into the capital markets. And then in terms of risks and challenges, this is now us here and going forward. I think it will be fundamentally a miss for us to paint a utopian picture. There is something that is happening within the capital markets that we need to find a solution for. And I think in terms of just the general delistings, but also what we need is not necessarily delistings per se, but I think it's just the diminishing number of counters that are operating within the domestic market. I don't think it will be amiss if delistings may happen, but also we need then to improve to get listings coming to the domestic market. And I think there's a conversation and there's a solution we're seeking to proffer, but I think it's a conversation wider than the SECZim. And then in terms of, so for revenue vulnerability and funding, delistings is there obviously, but from a perspective, from a mitigation perspective, we're looking at how do we get to diversify our activities besides obviously limiting the delistings, but how do we get to diversify our revenue? Then cyber security. As we implement digital systems, we just need to be cognizant that to whom much is given, much is expected. So there's that need for us to actually have a cyber resilience program. And then market depth, I think I've touched on it. And then in terms of just we need to optimize our AML compliance as we move, especially as we look at tokenization, as we look at the implementation of the digital age, and then capacity and expanding mandate. So in terms of a capacity, and obviously our mandate as it expands, I think the beauty of it is as we seek to modernize our markets, our capital markets, and as we digitize, I think there's a term that I was going to try and avoid and not even use in this presentation, but unfortunately in these times that we are in, it's very difficult not to mention in a presentation artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence will assist us as well as we find ways to automate some of the tasks as we forge ahead. And then in terms of just a snapshot, so 2026 now, where we are, it's something that I refer to as a black swan in terms of just the supplies that we got. I think anyone who's involved in the capital markets will attest that there was a bull run, but it was based on, I call it a black swan because the bull run emanated from the problem that we're actually talking about. It was the delisting of Econet that actually made people and us, by that extension, make some extra revenue. But also this then means that we need to effectively find ways, now that this is okay, to find ways. Again, it comes back to sustainability. But also one of the things that is very critical now is speaks to vast visual assets. From a capital market perspective,
if AI is to computing, VASP is equivalent to capital markets. The amount of opportunities that it brings, can never. It's out of the charts. And I think what is important for us as a commission, for us as a nation, is to say, as we forge ahead, how best can we effectively capitalize on this in the most cost-effective manner? And then obviously there is a sandbox. I think there has been a significant amount of utilization of the sandbox. And just to mention, even the small and medium enterprise exchange that is going to be launched in next week, it is actually part of it is a product of the sandbox. So this actually fits and it dovetails hand in glove with the mantra, leaving no one and no place behind. And the thought process around is to say capital markets previously have been a preview for the few. But we are saying, let's take capital markets to SMEs. SMEs are responsible for 75% of the business that is happening here. And it is important that they have access, they get to benefit from the capital markets. And then going forward, I think it's a paradigm shift. Probably paradigm shift is actually an understatement. What we want to do as SECZim is we want to have a quantum leap from a regulatory perspective. We want to move away from reactive regulation, that whenever we receive something, we say, so now what are we going to do? But we want to do proactive market building, create an enabling environment within the context of Zimbabwe, and be a leader within the context of the region and Africa. And from a strategy perspective, we would also want to move away from a compliance driven where we are just saying, let's tick the boxes, but we want to be innovation led. And innovation is not necessarily about computing. It's not necessarily about computers. It's not necessarily about ICT systems, but innovation is premised on the thought processes that you have when you're actually starting to do everything that you'll be working on in terms of delivery. So innovation, you innovate the way you do your business processes. We innovate the way we do investor education. We innovate the way we do market surveillance. So basically, and product development. So innovation led strategy. And then in terms of operations, we seek to be, and we are on the way to become, a digital first commission. We want to be a digital first commission. So digital first commission does not necessarily that mean that you are automating all the papers that you have. Digital first means that even in your thought processes as you are making decisions, it's anchored on the understanding that we have moved from manual to digitized systems. So digital first then also assist you when you're saying, okay, we want to get to everyone. How then can we be able to our systems to be used? This is where you also look at options of having offline components, because you want everyone to be involved as a digital first operator. And then integrated organization. This part, I think last week with our strategy session, and we're just saying, I think we quoted President Kaunda, who used to say, one Zambia, one nation. And we said, one SECZim, one team. And then in terms of strategy alignment with NDS2, I think I've touched on it, but basically there is more to it, but what we are simply saying in our strategic pillars, we want to align to the global vision. So I think in a concept where you are saying, that concept where you're saying the clock, the compass, and fire, our campus is the overarching goal that we want to achieve as a nation. And then the clock becomes the daily activities that we are doing as SECZim as we align with that overall vision. And then in terms of modernization of the capital markets, I think there's a modern framework we are pushing for this. I think it was even part of the matters arising. Then international credibility, we've touched on that. Debt capital market, it's a new product. We're looking at expanding as well in terms of the products that we're pushing, and then we want a balanced and coherent market as we progress. Digital transformation can never be overemphasized, and I will not even touch on that first one, AI. Rich Tech, I think we simply are saying we want to be able to. So from a commission perspective, we want to be ahead of the curve. What does that mean then as a regulator if you're ahead of the curve? It means that the players in the market as well, they are going to be able to even access certain software services. We can have software as a service to the market to assist the market to improve in the delivery of its activities. And I'll go to KYC and digital identity. You know, initially when we were coining this, we actually said it's going to be called digital investor ID. But we then realized that once you have automated KYC, it's not going necessarily to be limited even in the capital markets. Automated KYC works through the context of banks. Automated KYC works through the context of even the insurance industry. But what we're simply saying is, as we forge ahead with digitization, and the concept of digital first is you think to say all the systems, because I saw it when people were coming to present for us on Sandbox. Somebody goes there, to what system one, you are asked your name, your details, system two. So imagine now when we have 20 systems, you are going to have different versions of the truth. But now if we have a backbone, which just the moment you say, Tichaona Mshambadobe Shavani, it goes and picks, just the moment you say Tichaona, it goes and picks all the information, it reaches to the registry general, it talks to your mobile network operators. But we have that backbone to ensure that as we are digitizing, there is consistent in the information that is going to be moving around so that we don't have different versions of the truth. And in terms of tokenization and virtual assets, I think this topic, if of all them in the 25 minutes that I've presented, if you don't get anything, please just write down to do research on tokenization. The amount of options that exist, because you're talking about real world, you're talking about tokenization of real world assets, and how the concept then allows you certain concept like fractionalization, which allows, for example, if you tokenize this hotel, even with your $2, your $5, your $20, your 1,000, you can actually say, I'm a proud owner of, I'm a proud owner of Mikuls. So tokenization brings amazing opportunities. And I think in terms of just that part, my plea is just research on it, especially now, even our policymakers, so that when you talk about it, you understand the impact. And you can even imagine, Honorable Chidua, you can tokenize Mombe Kuzaka, live assets. So it's an amazing concept that really speaks to the concept of lowering the ladder to economic growth. And then I think I cannot overemphasize a data-driven commission. This is where we want to get to, and we've started the journey in earnest. And as the chair has said, the commission itself must become data-driven. And I think in the world of data science, we say data is the new oil. Most of the data scientists, they actually feel as if they are the sheikhs because they own the data. Data is the new oil. Yeah. And then creating an enabling environment. Us as a regulator, I think the mandate is very, very clear in terms of an enabling environment. And now when you then fuse some of those components that we spoke about and you put an innovation component, you then understand, for example, on ZEX, the ability to, so what it does, for example, is SME exchange. It's for lack of a better term, it has got enticing effects of even getting certain SMEs to formalize, because you want to get to access. It's obviously not the requirements are not as stringent as the major exchanges, but there are certain requirements that exist. So this effectively allows formalization, but most critically, it allows flow of capital to where it's needed. Because remember, guys, when you're investing on the big counters, when you're investing on the blue chip entities, the truth of the matter is they do not necessarily need your liquidity. They don't necessarily need your liquidity. But Honorable Liwayo, that youth at Chirinda shops who's trying to start a small business, they require that kind of liquidity. Then the Capital Market Institute, what we will do and what we seek to do is we are just laying the foundation. But the truth of the matter, the Capital Market Institute is the intention and what it seeks to achieve is far bigger than SECZim. This is why we are partnering. We're partnering with universities. We're partnering with international organizations, but also we want to partner even with other local entities. Some who may have deeper pockets, some who may have also who require to get knowledge to the people. So the Capital Market Institute, I think, will begin to make significant amount of noise around that component, and then I think your green markets, sustainable financing. I think it's something that's quite topical, but also what this does. So in terms of whether it's carbon credits, whether it's renewable energy certificates, if you look at the places where it gets generated, usually it's the most remote areas. So basically, we are now saying we are allowing capital to flow and benefit the people at the lower end of the pyramid and of the ladder, and then obviously fair national financial literacy, sustainability from a funding perspective. So this becomes, I think, the roadmap. But what I can say in terms of the roadmap and what we seek to achieve is this: as we innovate iteratively, the targets will be moving. The targets may be moving, but what we seek to achieve, we want to ensure that when we get measured, investors were better protected, compliance improved, we became faster and more predictable in decision making, more business capital flew, broader and more accessible products, and as Zimbabwe became more attractive to domestic diaspora and institutional investors. And I think in terms of acknowledgement, I want to first and foremost acknowledge our honorable minister for allowing us, I think, as SECZim to be able to achieve some of these things, but also to assist us in the challenges that we'll be facing and implementation of the solutions therein. But also coming from on a personal level, coming on a personal level, the appointment to say appointment first as a commissioner, but also to just allow the decision that the commission made to say go and act. I think here we may just need maybe just going a notch higher to actually, thank the architecture of the Second Republic, because growing up, a person who was called a commissioner looked different from me, yes, they had more gray hair. So I think just a round of applause, I think, to the architect of the Second Republic. And then I want to thank the Board of our commissioners, chairman, vice chair, and the commissioners for just assisting us as management to be able to deliver on our mandate. We want to thank as well the support in terms of market participants. We want to thank fellow regulators, RBZ, IPEC, DPC, PUB, FIU, and I don't know why I'm even putting, because this one has to be thanked on its own, OPC, CGU, we thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for assisting us to remain compliant. And we want to thank as well our international partners, and then the staff. Last but not least, the staff. I think for SECZim, as a knowledge-driven entity, for SECZim to be where it is, it's just the staff that have enabled this, but also living just, I think, for the presence on this particular presentation. I want to thank the presence of our chair, the chairman of our portfolio committee, the former chair, who is always supportive, is also a member of the portfolio committee. And then this is us in our last statutory meeting, and we thank you, Mr. Zata. You're always there, and I think in thanking as well, I want to thank you in advance for the check that you're going to give our chair soon after the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Acting CEO. That was discharged with a lot of passion, a lot of commitment, a lot of leadership, and we're very excited as a commission, as the board, to support the plan towards Vision 2030. Thank you very much. A round of applause for the CEO, please. I'm now calling upon the Director of Finance and Administration to give the financial report.
A very warm welcome to us all. I am riding on protocols that have already been established for the meeting. The basis of our preparation of our financial statements, these are prepared in accordance with IFRS, and because we remain a hyperinflationary economy under IAS 29, the historical figures have been restated for changes in the general purchasing power of the ZIG. The inflation-adjusted financial statements are therefore the primary financial statements, and the ZIG numbers are for reference only. Moving through the agenda, there's just 10 slides, which are in 3 sections. So for section, can you go back to the agenda, please? Can you go back to the agenda? Thank you. Sections 1 to 6, this is the 2025 financial results themselves, the summary, the key ratios, income and expenditure, and cash flows. Section 7 will look at the risk factors and the going concern position arising from these results. And the last section, 8 to 10, will look at what are we doing about the risk factors, that is the financial sustainability intervention, where we are first sequencing stability for digital transformation. The last slide will look at what we have achieved in 2026. Next slide, please. Looking at the executive summary, in terms of the headline numbers, total income is down 6% to 72.45 million. Surplus has retreated by 33% to 1.315 million, whilst total assets have increased up 54% to 75.41 million. In terms of the total income, the fair value gain on investment property was materially lower this year compared to last year. And this is reflecting a more stable economic environment during the 2025 year compared with 2024. And that's then caused the slight decline from 76.98 to 72.45. In terms of our total assets, again, just reiterating my acting CEO's comments, we really need to acknowledge the shareholders' support in funding the purchase of our office building. And this is the single largest transaction that has driven the 54% growth in assets. This already has had a positive impact on the bottom line, as we are currently realizing savings of roughly 80,000 USD, which would otherwise have gone to rent costs. I'll move on to the next slide. So looking at the key financial ratios and metrics, our cost to income is sitting at 90%, but on the overall, we are upbeat in the context that we monitor our ratios carefully, and we do see, albeit a small improvement, but we do see improvements in the ratios all around. Our staff cost to income ratio is currently sitting at 50%, and this is still within the 60% as approved by CGU. The current ratio has improved to a 1.03, slightly up from the 0.84 to 1, which now means that our current assets just about cover the current liabilities. We are not yet where we want to be, but we are confident that we are now moving in the right direction. Looking at the operating cash flow margin of 58%, this really reflects the quality of our earnings, and where we are saying possibly a ratio 20% and above is a strong indicator for financial health, and we are upbeat that we do have a bit of a free. We did close the year with a bit of a free cash flow there. Moving on to the income analysis, our revenue remains concentrated in 3 key lines. Our top 3 contributors is the securities levy, followed by license fees, and then followed by investment management levies, which is embedded in other levies. Looking at your securities levies, these rose by 53% to 28.3 million in financial year 2025, largely backed by a general improvement in trading activity. Although, as you will see in my later slides, this is not the situation that is prevalent into H1 2026. Our license fees remain our largest and steadfast line at 26.1 million. Just to emphasize this as a more dependable base to build on, albeit we are looking at reducing the license fees by about 50% in terms of the ease of doing business. Looking at the expenditure analysis, I think the key highlight here is that our total income for 2025, sorry, our total expenses for 2025 increased by 22% year on year, but this was really mainly driven by the refurbishment costs of number 2 Hendricks Way. Moving on to the assets and liabilities, I think this was significantly covered under the ratio, so I'll move on to the next slide, which is the cash flow analysis. So the net operating cash flows of 41.96 million, this is up from 2.34, up from 1.72 million in 2024. And this represents a very strong change from 2024. And then our net investing outflows of 39.27 million is almost entirely as a result of the purchase of the office building. Then in terms of the, please move the slide. Thank you. I'll move the slide again. The net financing cash flow of 1.62 million, this represents the lease liability for Smart SASA Park, which was extinguished during the year following the termination of our previous office lease, and this will not be repeated in the current 2026 year. We closed the year with a balance of 2.53 million. Next slide. Very briefly, looking at the risk factors and the going concern, I think this was adequately covered in the previous presentation. So we have 6 risks here, where we have 2 that are high, 2 medium, and 2 low. I'll start off with the hyperinflationary environment, which is high, and this is a countrywide issue, not unique to the capital markets sector. But our own compliance with IAS 29 does matter for investor confidence as a whole. We are engaging and we continue to work closely and seek guidance from our fellow regulator, PAAB, as they continue to monitor economic conditions in relation to the ongoing application of financial reporting in hyperinflationary economies. The cost escalation risk is very high, as alluded to earlier. And from my previous slides, you will note that total expenditure is currently outpacing the growth in revenue. And I think this is one of the single clearest facts from today, why we need interventions on the cost escalation risk. And this will come through in the upcoming slides. The investment property valuation is a medium risk, and this is also dependent on the government grants. And both of these introduce a volatility into the future results, and we continue monitoring those 2 items. Then looking at tax and regulatory compliance as well as going concern, these are low. And our assessment as management is that the Commission will continue operations into the foreseeable future. Next slide, please. Just looking at a summary of the key interventions that we have, we do have a financial sustainability strategy that we are currently planning on and concluding for 2026 into 2030. And this is our response to the risks that I presented in the previous slides. And this is how we intend to breach as well as modernize the Commission. The ambition is an aggressive 2026 to 2030, pushing alternative revenue lines, such as the Capital Markets Institute and software as a service, among other non-revenue lines. This will allow a reduction in dependency on the shrinking concentrated security levies base, the to-be reduced license fees, as well as the conditional government grants that we have. So this aligns with our strategic plan for our 3-year financial sustainability focus, where we want to pair revenue diversification, as well as coming up with a formal reserve fund policy and cost containment levers. And why stability must come first. If you see from my earlier slides, the cost to income ratio is already sitting at 90% as at 2025. So this would then mean that there would be little room to absorb any new technologies, any CapEx, without having a very clear funding plan. When you look at the current ratio of 1.031, this should improve to a minimum of a 2.1 or even greater than that. Our core revenue is concentrated and volatile. If you look at my next slide, which is the H1 2026, you'll see that securities levies have fallen by 68% year on year, especially followed after the delistings. So when you then layer an ambitious digital agenda onto this base, it will then risk the plan itself as well as the balance sheet. So stability for us is key, and we look forward to the financial sustainability strategy in 2026 to 2030. Please go back one slide. So if you look at this graphical presentation, what we're trying to explain here is we need to stabilize ourselves before we move to diversification and then ultimately have a digitally transformed commission. And the message is very simple and sequential. Stabilization, have a reserve fund, introduce new products, have a structure that supports the introduction of the new products, and then transformation into a digital-first, tech-driven regulator. My last slide, looking at the H1 2026 performance and outlook, we are very upbeat in terms of our performance for 2026. We do have a year-to-date surplus of 15.66 million, which is comfortably ahead of the year-to-date budget of 1.1 million, as well as above the closing 2025 ZIG 1.3 million. And this is a genuinely strong headline number. However, when you look at the total cost to income ratio, this has reduced from the 90% that I alluded to earlier. You can see we are on track as the ratio now starts coming down. When you compare against 98% of the budget and the 90% in 2025. Our staff cost to income ratio has reduced from the 50% reported in 2025 and is currently sitting at 38%. I think what is important to note here is that these underlying fantastic performance is not only from core revenue, but also supported by the government grant that we received in 2026. So overall assessment is the Commission remains in a sound liquidity position with a healthy year-to-date surplus cushion of 15.7 million. Although, as I've explained, the results are driven by a fall in core levy income, and we need to try and ensure that we are able to sustain ourselves into 2026. As I come to a close, I'm just going to read very briefly what I've written here as a closing remark to say to the Honorable Chairman, Commissioners, stakeholders, and our shareholder here present, the year 2025 was a year in which the Commission grew its balance sheet by over 50%. We also secured a recognition of a significant government grant, and we continued to serve the capital markets through a genuinely difficult operating environment. The growth was real, but so were the pressures. Our cost-to-income ratio moved to 90%. Our current ratio is hovering around 1. And in the first half of 2026, you'll also notice that if you take off the impact of the delisting of Econet, there is significant erosion in our securities levy base, and this reminds us just how quickly one single revenue line can shift, and we need to move away from that dependency syndromes. But all this does not change our fundamentals. Because the Commission remains a going concern with a healthy liquidity cushion, as well as the full backing of our shareholder, it also makes sure that we sharpen our priorities. So before we can become the technology-driven, digitally transformed regulator that the capital markets deserve, we must first become financially disciplined, diversifying our own revenue, and also rebuilding our margin of safety. As the Commission, we treat every ratio in this report not only as an audit formality, but as an early warning system that we day-to-day act upon. I want to thank you, and I want to thank the board and the commissioners for their stewardship during a very challenging year. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Finance Head and Farida. Just want to emphasize that, complacency on seeing the improvement is not enough. Mr. Zata and the Ministry of Finance, your support has been immeasurable, and we continue to see your support coming through. The digital transformation is something that we must pursue. We must diversify. We must support the SME market that is evolving and is our little child, and it needs to grow into a significant parent as we go through into Vision 2030. Thank you very much again. I'm now calling upon the Director of Corporate Services to give the compliance report.
Good morning. I will write on the protocols already observed. I will present on the compliance report of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Beginning with the statutes of the Securities and Exchange Commission, as the Commission, we administer 3 important statutes. That is the Securities and Exchange Act, which establishes the Commission and it provides for the regulatory function of the Commission. We also administer the Asset Management Act, which provides for the regulation of asset managers. The Collective Investment Schemes Act, which provides for the regulation of collective investment schemes. In terms of our mandate, we regulate and develop Zimbabwe's capital markets. We license and supervise market participants, protect investors, and ensure that we have an orderly capital market. In terms of statutes that were published in the year 2025, we have the Securities Registration, Licensing and Corporate Governance Rules. This provides for licensing requirements. We also had the Securities and Exchange Self-Listing Rules for exchanges, which enabled the listing of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange on itself. The Finance Act also provided for the registration of virtual assets, and the Securities Amendments Act were submitted to the Ministry of Finance. We are really grateful for the FCA UK for providing us technical assistance in reviewing the Securities Amendments Act to ensure that they are aligned to the IOSCO principles. In terms of our board composition, we have a full complement of the board of 9 commissioners, which is well balanced in terms of gender and qualifications. In terms of board committees, we have 6 committees in place: the Audit, Licensing, Litigation and Legislative Committee, the Finance and Strategy, Risk Management and Compliance, Human Resources Committee, and the Investor Education Committees. In terms of leadership and staffing, key positions at the SECZim are filled, including the acting CEO, and as alluded by the chairman, the board is working on the appointment of a substantive CEO. In terms of gender, at the commission, we have 20 males and 19 females. Our board charter was approved by the Ministry of Finance in 2025. We also conducted a board evaluation exercise, which was done through an independent consultant in February 2026. In terms of our remuneration and ethics, management and board salaries and board's costs, they were approved by the Ministry of Finance, and no loans were extended to the board. We have strategic plans in place and review sessions were carried out. Board and CEO and all staff signed performance contracts. In terms of disclosure and certification, our board profiles, they were published in the Government Gazette, General Notice 171 of 2026, and we filed declaration of assets and compliance certifications to the CGU. In terms of independent assurances, our internal audits were carried out by Baker Tilly and the external audit by Grant Thornton. In terms of filing of returns, we are up to date with our CGU and Ministry of Finance filings. In terms of our meetings, board and committee meetings are held in terms of the board charter, our acts, and the Peacock Act. In terms of training, our board attended the Chitepo School of Ideology training together with the Investor Protection Board in 2025. In terms of the compulsory statutory meetings, 2 statutory meetings were held with the Ministry of Finance, and we also held 2 meetings with the Investor Protection Board. We have a risk assessment matrix in place as the Commission, which is tracked quarterly. Can we go to the next slide? In terms of our financial management, in terms of the Public Finance Management Act, audited accounts were produced in time and filed with the Ministry of Finance and the Auditor General. Annual reports are also published on our SECZim website, and we are up to date with our annual general meetings. In terms of our procurement conduct, we procure in terms of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Act, and our procurement plan was approved. Can you move to the next slide? In terms of the Labor Act compliance with other acts. Employee salaries are up to date. We have a code of conduct in place and HR policies. Employee pensions contributed are remitted to SECZim Old Mutual Pension Fund, and they are up to date. All our statutory remittances, including NASA, ZimDev, ZimRA, are up to date. In terms of international alignment and market credibility, SECZim is a member of the CISNA, which is a SADC body, and we are also a member of the IOSCO. We are working towards becoming an ordinary member of IOSCO, and we are up to date with our membership subscriptions in terms of those international organizations. We want to assure you, our stakeholders, that SECZim is in full compliance with the acts which we administer. And in terms of litigation, currently there are no court cases pending against the Commission. We are up to date with all our filings to CGU, Ministry of Finance, and Office of the Auditor General. We are also compliant with procurement, labor and governance controls. And we are international alignment remains central to the Commission's credibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. I wanted to pause and actually thank Lina and the team tremendously for the work that they do to keep the Commission legal and compliant. And it's very pleasing to see that we have absolutely maintained that standard of excellence. So thank you again to Lina. So we come to the end of our reports, and if I can now open the floor for any questions or comments regarding the various reports from the Chairman, the CEO, the financial report, and the compliance report. So over to you, Farai, and the floor.
Control. Have a submission. Please raise your hands higher up, sorry, right here, so that we can see you. Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you for all the presentations that we've had. Welcome, everyone, and hopefully your voices are still working. Let's test them. Honorable Liwayo, over to you.
Once again, let me start by recognizing the body chair, Mr. Patel, and the acting CEO. I think I just want to applaud all the presentations that has been made, and I'm also especially, I want also to thank the Minister of Finance who have provided an environment that enables our capital market to thrive. Otherwise, without macroeconomic credibility, macroeconomic stability, there's no way the capital market can thrive. So I just want to say to the Minister of Finance, a job well done. So maybe, so that takes me straight to my first question, the reporting under IAS 29. Reporting under hyperinflationary environment. I don't know, what does it take for you to correct this? Because I understand since 2024, we have been having, I mean, our inflation rate below 10%. I mean, it's a single digit. And right now, I think our inflation rate is quite good. So why are we still reporting under hyperinflationary environment? I feel it gives a wrong signal to our investors out there. So maybe the finance director may come in on this one. I also want to applaud SECZim for coming up with the Capital Market Institute. And also, I understand you have rendered an offer to educate the parliamentarians. Sure, I think that is a critical step in ensuring that people are aware of what happens on our capital markets, on our stock markets. You know, members of parliament, including members of parliament who are the lawmakers themselves, they are not that conversant with what happens in the capital market. So coming up with such an institute, I think that was a very good move, a very good initiative, and it should not end with your parliamentarians. But I would advise you to really invite us before you come with your Securities Exchange and Exchange Amendment draft bill, because I think that is critical in capacitating the honorable members themselves. Then I just want to have some highlights on the delistings that has been happening on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. I feel many of the players there, the counters, they are moving to the Victoria Falls Exchange, Stock Exchange. In as much as the creation of the VFX was a good move in terms of trying to improve the flows of foreign capital into the country, I'm not sure from a SECZim's perspective, have we seen that happening? Is there foreign capital flowing into Zimbabwe as a result of our VFX, or we are actually seeing some of the players? You look at Dairybond, you know, they get their capital from the local market, they sell to the local market, and you wonder, they move to VFX. What's happening? SECZim, we may want a comment on that one. Then I was also especially impressed by the issue of the tokenization of the real world assets. I think this is a low-hanging fruit, especially when it comes to Zimbabwe. We understand, I heard someone from the artisanal miner. He was saying, no, nowadays don't have to concentrate more on digging and whatnot. Just have the paperwork that shows that you own this. Then sell the paper and you get a lot of of money. So I think this is a very good way forward. I mean, it's a good initiative for the country, for the citizens to improve in the way in which they can attract capital to the country, I mean, to Zimbabwe. I'm also impressed by the introduction of the credit market. You also want to capitalize the carbon credit market. I also feel that's a multi-billion-dollar market on its own if you really manage to educate people on how they can participate and attract capital through the carbon credit certificates and renewable energy certificates. Otherwise, your performance as SECZim is quite plaudable. I've seen your year-to-date surplus increasing to 15.66 million. Your staff costs going down by 38%. Yes, and also your growth in assets is quite commendable. However, I'm not quite impressed by the fact that the growth in your assets came more from the grants. From the grant. We would want to see your assets going forward, growing from the incomes that you yourself make. I would also want to assure you, as your committee, we are there, we are ready to work with you to improve your, to amend your Securities and Exchange Acts. We are very ready. Let's engage us and also let us know, where are you right now? Where are you in terms of the Securities and Exchange Amendment Bill draft? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we come to Chidua, I'm wanting to ensure that we've distributed your comments and questions and that the persons who will respond have noted them. Tinokutenda imsharukwa. The game Zayambo Itabasambo DDD. We had an issue on reporting, Farida, and possibly acting CEO, and I'm sure Chairman would want to also take a nibble at that one. There was the issue of delistings. I'm hoping one mic will also hover near Norman somewhere in the event that he's also invited to comment. And then we had was it tokenization? Did I skip something? Tokenization, I think it was more a comment, and I think you expanded quite nicely and clarified those issues. And then there was, of course, coming back again to performance and the composition of the revenue. So maybe those comments could be combined and we could move forward. And if I've omitted anything, please do remind me, Honorable. Can I proceed to Vachidua so that we make a note of perhaps a number of questions? Then the responses can come through. Are you agreeable, Chairman? Thank you. Vachidua, over to you. Can I ask Esmond, maybe just grab a water from there? I noticed Vachidua has not drunk anything since he came in. There's a bottle of water just behind Honorable. Esmond, up. Yes, thank you very much. Vachidua, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, let me also appreciate our board chair, Mr. Patel, and thanking you for inviting us to come to the AGM. This allows us as Parliament to play our oversight role. Just to add on the issues that have been raised by my chair, Honorable Liwayo. The first one is what we have noted, that when investors make a decision to come to a country, what is used as the economic pulse of a country for them to make a decision is how vibrant the capital market is. And I think in terms of the vibrance that we are witnessing at the moment, we are not up to the level that we expect as a country. We are seeing few participants in the market, what has been alluded to by the chairman already, low trading volumes, investor confidence is not yet up to the level that we expect, and limited liquidity. And I wanted to find out what SECZim is doing to ensure that we have got a vibrant capital market. And I think I'm saying this because I would want to use a vibrant capital market to be used as a pulse for economic performance. Then the other issue that I also wanted to highlight is the digital transformation and virtual assets, which all amounts to the modernization of our markets and linking it to our activities as Parliament. Are there any legislative gaps that you are seeing as you modernize? Is the coming in of modern assets in sync with what I would say is maybe an old and archaic legislative framework that is there at the moment? How are you syncing the two? And then maybe the last one, again, in line with what the chairperson said. You are working on the amendment of the Securities and Exchange Commission Act. And then for us, we want to minimize debate in the House. And in order to minimize debate in the House, you need to engage your committee before you submit the bill to the Cabinet Committee on Legislation. So there is a need for us to have what is called a rights shop. That rights shop, this is where we are going to debate all the issues. We are going to be as wild as possible. But this is going to be done before you submit to the Cabinet Committee on Legislation, and even before the gazetting. So that even when you go out there to do public consultations, it's not that we're on some page. So if we can try to make sure that before the submission of the principles and the draft bill to the Cabinet Committee, if you can have a rights shop with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vachidua. I've taken note, and I know that the vibrancy as a measure of the pulse of the economic pulse of the country, I suspect, Chairman, you'll be wanting to tackle that one. And the digital transformation, acting CEO, you've excited discussion on that particular item. So the question was, are there any legislative gaps that you are seeing that may frustrate progress? But at the same time, there is an open door for consultation, rights shop, to ensure that we tackle the issues ahead of time. There's another hand at the back. And if there are hands that I haven't seen, please raise them so that, okay, then I'll come to you. Then I think we'll close after that initially, and then maybe we'll continue with you so that we get some of these issues tackled while they're still top of mind. Yes, sir.
Afternoon, Tinashe from Equity Access. Allow me to write on protocols already observed. I have two questions. So the first one, given that ZSE investors saw significant real value erosion through the exchange rate depreciation, currency devaluations, and policy inconsistencies in the first few years of this decade. So I want to know what specific regulatory safeguards is SECZim designing to protect investor value on both the ZSE and VFX as the country transitions toward a monocurrency regime in the near future? And what is SECZim's timeline for consulting listed companies and investors on this framework before the transition takes effect, as opposed to what we've seen in the prior years? So this maybe could include such disclosure requirements on currency exposure and hedging mechanism approvals, or even mandated USD and ZWG JOE reporting. So my next question, the last one, with an increasing number of counters migrating to VFX and others delisting outrightly from the ZSE, what is SECZim's strategic assessment of ZSE's long-term viability as a local currency exchange, and what specific measures is the Commission implementing to prevent further erosion of liquidity and breadth on the ZSE, whether it could be incentives for dual listings, reforms to make the ZSE more attractive for currency-seeking companies, or a formal repositioning of ZSE's role relative to the VFX, among others. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And we also appreciate the research that you disseminate in the market and the insights that you bring. We follow avidly, even if it is sometimes painful to read. Thank you very much. And your comments and questions will be tackled also at this table in terms of, you know, the ZSE developments in the earlier years of the decade, as you refer to it. And also the migration strategy, you know, and the long-term prospects, as you call it, for the ZSE, what reforms, what strategic initiatives should obtain. I'm looking at this side, but it does not preclude commissioners, and please let me know and alert me if I overlook you in the responses that are being called for. So with your permission, Chairman, we'll close off for now, field the responses, and then maybe open up again. And I've seen that there was a hand up here already. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you, Farai, for that. And Honourable, thank you very much for your trust and your comments and your observations with your colleagues, and to the other questions that have come from the market participants. It's quite a long list of questions, so let's try and get through them as quickly as we can and give you cogent responses that give you confidence and give you latitude in terms of what the Commission is planning on doing to address each one of those. We live in a very complex time as a country. We operate within a multi-currency regime, and yet it creates, therefore, a number of challenges that have been highlighted. So if I take the order, if I can refer to our Finance Director first to cover the technical point on IS 29, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So to respond to the IAS 29 comment clarification question is just to note that the the mandate of financial reporting standards lies with our fellow regulator, the public accountant, and our auditors board. And they continue to monitor the economic conditions in relation to the applicability of IAS 29, and we work very closely with them. So having said that, so for us as an economy to exit out of the hyperinflationary environment, we need to look at a number of, in terms of the standard, a number of qualitative and quantitative assessments, which I'm sure our fellow regulator is currently seized with, and we're anticipating that we should get a public circular in that regard. But some of the indices that we look at, or assessments rather, is we look at the inflation trend, we look at the stability of the exchange rate, we look at foreign currency access as an example, the use and the supply of the ZiG itself, indexation of contracts are currently indexed in ZiG or USD. So it's a number of qualitative and quantitative assessments that are done before the exiting of IAS 29 can be done. We also look at savings and lending behavior of the economy to say, given the fact that we are multi-currency, what is the currency that currently people are likely to be saving in? So it's a whole host of variables, including the CPI as well. I hope I've responded to that. So we await a guidance from our fellow regulator, which will then be shared with the public.
Thank you very much, Farida. Just to add to that, we have had discussions with PAB, and from a technical standpoint, moving away from hyperinflationary accounting really is dependent on historics as well. That typically they have to look at comparatives, and so it's not an automatic switch to a moving away from hyperinflation. What I can say is that guidance is being prepared right now, given that we do operate in a multi-currency environment. If we look at compliance with IFRS on financial standards relating to currency and functional currency, then we do need to apply the logic of perhaps dual reporting in the interim. And I think that is a more balanced approach in demonstrating to investors, both domestic and international, that the excellent record of reduction in inflation, the stability of the ZiG, brings confidence and therefore allows us to consider under US dollar reporting, which is the functional currency, that we can consider a move away from hyperinflationary accounting, which would help the country, would help the investors. And the point that Tanashe made, it'll help with how we look at valuation of companies and entities that are raising capital and debt bonds in our market itself. So I'm encouraged by the progress that PAB is making. As SECZim, we continue to press through the appropriate committee that we have, that we ensure that we can keep in line with the changes that are happening dynamically in the country. So it's a very good question, and thank you for that. But it's a live issue, and it is quite sensitive in terms of when we make that change. I will take the next question, which I think we all confront as the elephant in the room, which is the migration of domestic counters going from the ZSC to the VFEX. I will cover Tanashe's comment and observation on the ZSC at the same time. Value erosion comes from uncertainty. It comes from dislocation from the point of view of not having consistency in our policy frameworks and also the guidance to the market. And I think as regulators, and I say regulators, not just SECZim, for us, it's a partnership working with IPEC, working with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. And collectively, we have a responsibility and a commitment to ensure that we have balanced, we have a level playing field, and we have fair treatment, both for domestic businesses, but also for international investment coming in. As a person that plays in the investment banking field, based in London, anecdotally, I would say if I was looking from the outside in, then the inconsistency does drive uncertainty. And that inconsistency is what we need to focus on. And that is what we talked about earlier in my own report, but also the acting CEO, that unless we actually get to the realization that we need to level the playing field and that unintended consequences can have a damaging effect on the market, but also on the stability of the country and our strong goal towards Vision 2030. So it's an area that is under review. What we are seeing is a lot of domestic businesses. Honorable, as rightly you said, the Dairy Board is a good example. It has come to our attention, and there are a number of activities that we're working with our colleagues at the Ministry of Finance and our fellow regulators to see how we can try and develop a much more sustainable model. One of the key elements in terms of incentives, we can respond to that question from the Tanashe, is that we are looking at measures to level the playing field. When VFX and the IFSC were set up, the intention was for an offshore market with a view that we attract international investment. That goal is still absolute. That goal is still something that we should aspire for. It's the only way we're going to get markets to better understand how governance can work in the framework that they feel the investment is protected as they come and play in the Zimbabwe market itself. What we are seeing, being very candid, is a number of domestic counters that are migrating towards VFX. Whilst it is laudable, it needs to have the right metrics, it needs to have the right strategic plans in terms of what it does to their businesses and the importance of that. Financial reporting standards need to be regulated. They need to be ensured that we comply with that, such that businesses that do that, they do meet the standards required to go into an offshore center, and not just a simple migration for the benefit of reporting in a particular currency, either US dollar. And so it's an area that we do need to consider very carefully. We need to consider how we can operate within the monetary policy regime to ensure that we level the playing field, both in terms of attitude, in terms of commitment, and in terms of trading itself. Secondly, we need to ensure that where we're looking at domestic businesses that are reliant on the alternate market of VFX, that we have a level playing field, where there are domestic players, that there's no arbitrage benefit that they gain from moving into a different exchange. So we need to bring that compliance back in order. So these are lessons learned, these are observations. It doesn't change the principles fundamentally that the dual capital markets, if you like, are fundamental to the development of Zimbabwe. And we applaud that and we continue to support that. But we need to do it in a way that we understand the changes that it brings. And as we understand the changes, we bring in more sustainable solutions. So this is true of any child that you raise. You know, you always get it wrong at the beginning, but you learn, you adapt, and you improve. And that is what SECZim's responsibility is, to develop with our fellow regulators and with our sponsors at the Ministry of Finance and parliamentarians, that we drive the right legislation. If I can comment on the legislation point, that's absolutely correct. You know, you are sponsors, you are the legislators. Unless we can get you comfortable with the changes we want to bring and why, it is important that we maintain that dialogue. And it's something I have encouraged the acting CEO, and I'll pass on to him some of the comments on exactly that aspect.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the questions. So I think the legislative gap within our efforts around digital transformation and tokenization, I think we will take actually that question as the affirmation that your door is open. Because definitely as a novel concept, the legislative framework does not attend to some of the specific items that would want to okay. And I think with the nature of digital transformation and the rapidity that is required, we would appreciate support in terms of getting to rapidly implement some of those changes. So definitely we'll be reaching out. And I think it goes beyond digital transformation. I think in terms of capital market modernization, you're looking at, for example, renewable energy certificates or even the carbon credit market. It cuts across several ministries where basically the implementation then even the reserved sector project we're trying to pursue, it's not necessarily housed in our parent ministry, but it requires legislative changes that can only be done, and it can be effectively pushed from your offices. Definitely we'll be reaching out, and I think as one of the first agenda items that I'm going to do as soon as we finish this is to proceed with procurement for the breakfast to invite our parliamentarians. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I hope, Tanasha, I've given you a response to your particular question. Is there any clarification you require? Okay, so if I come to the comment that really hit my heart, which was the state of our capital markets, and it's not up to standard. And you're absolutely right. You know, that Zimbabwe is an emerging country. We have seen a lot of dislocation over the last 9 to 10 years. And I applaud the country, I applaud the industry, I applaud the listed companies, I applaud each one of you for coming through a very difficult period. But we now see the green shoots of development that is taking us towards Vision 2030. There's stability, the ZiG versus the dollar has stabilized. Our inflation is the lowest we've ever seen from the time of independence. And is also one of the lowest in Africa, although a lot of the PR that goes on in Africa doesn't credit us for that, and that's disappointing. And so we need to correct that. That Zimbabwe is on the upward trajectory. We've seen huge increase in exports, the investment in mining, in agriculture, and that's where I think we're proposing that we look to develop a new standard and a framework around the debt capital markets. It's not just about the legacy of our stock markets. It's not the legacy of our just equities that drive capital and growth, but looking at innovation around how we can use debt capital markets. If you look at any market in the world, it grows because it starts from the green shoots. The green shoots initially is about project finance. And it's about looking at the foundation of what makes up this country. A significant FDI is the diaspora. Yet, when I look back at, having joined the commission, we don't have specific product strategies in terms of how we can enable that community to participate in the capital market itself. For them, savings is more important than just being a remittance provider and helping their family. Because, I think of each diasporan and thinking, when they come back home, when they want to retire, what savings do they have? All they've been doing is sending money home to help their family. So that has to fundamentally change. And it's a key area of focus for us that part of the capital markets is actually that inclusive element. The ZiGs exchange, I'm very excited by that because that is a fundamental shift where 90% of our economy is driven by the SME. It is driven significantly by the informal market. And, and that is the biggest challenge that we face, is that how do we empower, how do we enable that strategy? How do we enable that section of the market itself to grow? So we are making mistakes. But the job of the Commission as a regulator is to actually defend that, is to come up with mitigation ahead of the problem actually emerging and find ways in which we can collaborate with our fellow regulators to support such an incredible and a very groundbreaking initiative in terms of what we're doing. And that takes me to the pathway towards a monocurrency. And that pathway has been set by our governor and the Reserve Bank and the Ministry of Finance support. And I like the idea that we're measuring it based on metrics. We're being very articulate. We're being very objective in how we want to determine the timing of when we move to a monocurrency. That comes from confidence, and confidence is going to be built if we're consistent and we apply ourselves towards that sort of goal. We need to be serious. We need to maintain that road pathway. And I do applaud the RBZ for maintaining that and keeping us informed on that direction. And I would like to also, at this point, commend our leader, His Excellency, President Mnangagwa, because it's through his vision that we've seen that sort of policy-making framework is allowed to develop in the country. And that is rare, and that's new. And if I go back 10 years, that didn't exist, whereas now it exists. And so embrace it. The change comes. We need to evolve. We need to move further away from just being an equity-based capital market. We need to diversify. The acting CEO talked about the carbon trading market. That's linked with the Ministry of Environment, who are the sponsors and the owners of that. Unless you can monetize that value, you cannot create injection of funds that go back into resuscitating the environment, but more importantly, sustaining the economy that creates that sustainability in the first place in terms of carbon credits itself. So these are important distinctions, and that's why we talked about diversification. The mitigation is not about saying, oh, now that the trading has gone down, what are you going to do about that? Well, we need to change, we need to evolve, we need to diversify. And that's exactly our agenda for the next 5 years. And I commend the management in terms of embracing that. With the commissioners, we joined the strategic planning session last week. And as a commission, I'll hand over some comment. I was very excited to see the buzz, to see the commitment, but the openness to want to change, to develop, to make sure that we deliver against our plans and Vision 2030. But I thank you all very much. Can I open to the commissions for any comments or responses?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Manimanzi.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and I will write on the protocols as already presented. I just wanted to make one comment on the issue of innovation. I think one of the things that we obviously get to see is innovation always precedes the law, and it's unfortunate. It's like that, but yeah, it's also good that honorable members here want to support whatever initiatives we do. But let's get the products and then we share with our honorable members so that they can help us in terms of us getting the legislation in place. One of the issues, obviously, having been on this commission for a long time, I think the amendments to the Act have taken so long. I think we've had to pull them back from the ministry. We've had to add a few other things. And I think the proposal that has been given here that we need to meet up with our committee earlier, make sure we are on the same side. I think will make our life easier in terms of us getting the amendments to go through. And I think we need to grab this and run with it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. If there are no other points, can I bring a close the Q&A session?
Sorry, Chairman. I had undertaken that I would take at least one more from a hand that was previously up. And if there are any hands, please, if you could have them now, then we've got an idea of how to organize ourselves. The roving mic, so it's 2 persons, 1 roving mic here. This was the first hand. Please confirm. Yes. Can you see the hand? Those who are holding the mics. And then the final one will be here. And from what I can see, those will be the final submissions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Director of Ceremony. For the sake of saving time, I will just go straight to the question which I have and a comment which I have. My question which I have is based on page 65 of the annual report under the heading 2.8 revenue. Under that, the first paragraph there, a number of fee rates which are charged by the commission are spelled out there. Just to say, I'm aware, as many of us here are aware, government has been pushing for the ease of doing business. And this was being done particularly through the Office of the President Cabinet in conjunction with the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion. Just to say, can we have a feel of the main rates spelled out there, how they compare against the Commission's counterparts, particularly in the SADC region and maybe internationally in general? So that's basically my question. The other thing which I have is a comment. Just to say, on page 79 of the annual report, there's a note on related party transactions. It goes into detail to cover key management personnel in detail by name. It goes over also to page 80, related party transactions, covering even in detail the chief executive's remuneration and also for the commissioners. The comment I want to make here is to say this is quite commendable, Mr. Chairman, that the Commission is disclosing this kind of information in line with the International Financial Reporting Standards. And we basically say, congratulations to you for being bold enough to disclose to that level of detail as required by the standards. But the message also is to the other public entities who may be in the house and maybe who may not. For us as entities which operate in this particular sector, the public entities and the public entities, to say you have set a good standard and we should continue to watch to make sure that other entities also disclose their related party transactions to this level of detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The commendations are gratefully accepted and the question is noted, and I'm sure, Chairman, for the FD, you've also noted that. And then the final questions, please, that we'll be taking for today in this segment. The mic, I think, is not functioning or not on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chen from AMH, and I just have a question. In the context of carbon credits, capital market modernization, and NDS2, when will the dedicated carbon credits trading platform officially launch for public trading? And what steps must local brokerages take to become certified to trade carbon credits? The second question also aligns with carbon credits. How will SECZim share regulatory oversight with the Zimbabwe Carbon Markets Authority? And yeah, that's all actually.
Thank you very much. And it's great to end on a futuristic note, as it were. So thank you for both questions. I see the acting CEO making furious notes. And I suspect on both of those, but also you obviously call for support through the chairman. So it's the carbon credits, the modernization, etc. What the question is when, by when, and the shared oversight with the various bodies that exist in that climate finance and investment space. Thank you, Chairman. Those are our questions for this final segment.
Thank you, Farai. If I can start with the carbon credit one, which I think is forward-looking, and I'll hand over to the acting CEO to update you on the progress that they're making.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. And I actually love the questions, and I actually love how you made your submission. So your second question answers the first question. We're engaging the key stakeholders, and I think at an opportune time. But one thing that is certain is we are moving with rapidity to be able to bring this solution, as alluded by the chair. Carbon credits or renewable energy certificates without the necessary capital infrastructure, they will remain papers that we're just holding. So there is interaction between our ministry and us as entities within the ministry and the Ministry of Environment. So in terms of then the timelines, that interaction will determine. But what we can say from a project perspective, we are hoping to have trading happening by the first quarter next year, because there's significant, I think there's significant boxes that have to be ticked. So in terms of the time, we can't give an exact time. But what we would do, as somebody who has shown that they are interested, currently we are doing stakeholder engagement. So the stakeholder engagement is not limited just to ministries and government entities, but we have been involving everyone who has got interest, local and international players. So I think I'll also just coordinate with the team so that when we send out invitations for stakeholders, will be included. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting CEO. If I can turn to the next question, I was going to ask Grace Berejana, who's in the room, who was the interim acting CEO, but also sits as a representative on CISNA, who can cover the question around the revenue policies with respect to ease of doing business and just where we sit with respect to our peer group. I was suffice to say, like any child that you're nurturing, we've been through a number of changes that are occurring. And so whilst we value the principle of ease of doing business, you can do that when you ensure that you have sustainability, that you have clarity of purpose, and that you've got a foundation that you can build on. Simply making changes to suit the moment and the tactical requirement to do that is not really strategic. And so it can come back and affect you. So for us, it's about maintaining that balance of saying, how do we make sure that we develop a sustainable pathway, but at the same time, find ways where we can level the playing field? How can we improve and reduce where it's appropriate to support the market, but also support our participants in the market? So if I can hand to Grace, she can give you a bit more detail on what we've been doing with respect to our benchmarking. Grace?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. In terms of our efforts as the Commission in trying to align ourselves with our regional peers, we have been looking at our total trading costs relative to what the region is charging. And what we have gathered so far is that just by looking at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, our trading costs in total are about double what the region is charging at the moment. So what we need to do going forward is to maybe scan ourselves and see where it is we can actually reduce in terms of the costs that are associated with trading on our market, so that at least we remain competitive when we are pairing ourselves with our regional peers. Looking at the costs, we are roughly sitting at around 4.25, and the region on average is at around 2.25. So what we need to do now is to see or look at the areas that we need to cut down. And I can say maybe with the ongoing efforts from government, where there has been a reduction in terms of our costs, we can then see where we are likely to settle on, so that at least we can compete with our regional peers when it comes to trading on our capital markets. This is also good, especially when you're looking at efforts that are going on regionally, where there are efforts to promote regional integration. So should the borders be opened, it means we have to be prepared to compete with our peer regulators, our peer markets across the region, and we cannot run away from aligning ourselves in terms of costs with what other jurisdictions are charging. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Grace. If there's no other questions, I'd like to rapidly move on to the next piece of the agenda. In the interest of time, I'm going to push this quite hard. We need to consider and adopt the Chairman's report, the CEO's report, the finance report, and the compliance report. So if I can look to my stakeholders to rapid fire, can I get a proposer and a seconder for the Chairman's report, please? Thank you. Thank you. For the CEO's report? Thank you, Honourable. Seconder? Thank you. For the finance report? Thank you. Proposer? Seconder? Thank you. And for the compliance report? Proposer? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Honourable. With all you being considered, the adoption of the compliance report and the Chairman's report, the finance report, and the CEO's report are taken as read and adopted. We're now receiving the audit report, and I will ask Grant Thornton, our auditors, to give the audit report, focusing on the auditor's opinion and any key findings. And we can keep this fairly tight and short, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you all. Allow me to ride on protocols previously observed and present to you the independent auditor's report for the financial year ended 31 December 2025. So we audited the inflation adjusted financial statements of Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, which comprise the inflation adjusted statement of financial position as of 31 December 2025, the inflation adjusted statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, the inflation adjusted statement of changes in funds, and the inflation adjusted statement of cash flows for the year ended, and the notes to the inflation adjusted financial statements, which includes material accounting policies. And in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. The inflation adjusted financial position of Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe as of 31 December 2025, and its inflation adjusted financial performance and its inflation adjusted cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with IFRS accounting standards as issued by the International Accounting Standards Board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments in the auditor's report? I'll pause for 5 seconds. Thank you very much. So may I just move towards a proposer and a seconder for the auditor's report? Stakeholders, can I have a proposer? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. The audit report is hereby adopted. We now move to remuneration. We will now consider the confirmation of payment of audit fees of 595,505 ZiG for the year ended 31 December 2025. May I have a proposer and a seconder for the confirmation of audit fees for the year 31 December 2025? Proposer? Stakeholders? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Honorable. Next item on the agenda is to confirm the end of the tenure of the external auditors, Grant Thornton. We thank the partners and the staff of Grant Thornton, who's represented by Lorraine Gwali today, for their service for the last 5 years. Can I just have a round of applause for the auditors? The meeting is requested to confirm the end of the tenure of Grant Thornton as auditors, external auditors for the Commission. May I have a proposer and a seconder? Stakeholders. Proposer? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. The meeting is requested to confirm the appointment of the Office of the Auditor General, external auditor of SECZim for the year 2026. May I have a proposer and seconder for the appointment of the Office of the Auditor General as auditors of the Commission for the year 2026? Thank you, Honourable. Proposer, seconder? Thank you. Director's fees, and I must commend our colleague for the comment on related party disclosures, and I totally agree with you that transparency is important in public service, and I would encourage other similar entities to follow the same in compliance with the reporting standards. And so we pride ourselves to make sure they were transparent and open in the way we actually manage our affairs. So we move to the next agenda item, which is director's fees. We will now consider the confirmation of payment of director's fees for the year 2025 being 2,015,309 ZiG. And may I have a proposer and seconder? Proposer, seconder? Thank you. If I may now request Mr. Zata, the Director of Finance, as the representative of the Ministry of Finance, Development and Investment Promotion, to give a statement.
the chairman of the Board of Security and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, board members of the Commission and Investor Protection Fund, the chairman of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Budget, Finance, Investment Promotion, Honorable Liwayo, and board members here present, senior government officials, officials from the corporate governance unity, representatives of statutory bodies here present, the Auditor General's Office, management and staff of Securities and Exchange Commission, capital market intermediaries, listed entities and capital markets participants, members of the media, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you. I'm going to read the minister's statement. It is my honor and privilege to officiate at the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe's 8th Annual General Meeting. Let me, at the onset, congratulate the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, board and management for hosting this annual general meeting, a key governance platform where stewardship, transparency, and accountability is demonstrated to the government and capital markets stakeholders. I am pleased to note that the Commission's 2025 financial performance reflects both resilience and pressures of the operating environment. Notwithstanding these pressures, the Commission maintained financial stability through prudent financial management and disciplined expenditure control. I commend the board, management and staff for the hard work, and have no doubt that these developments will instill confidence to the investors and the public. Going forward, the Commission should also focus more on revenue diversification, operational efficiency, and long-term financial sustainability. As already mentioned, capital markets across the globe have been undergoing the most profound transformation, shaped by an era of digitalization, artificial intelligence, blockchain, technology, and decentralized finance, among others. These initiatives have taken center stage in shaping the boundaries of investments, capital formation, and regulatory oversight. However, I am convinced that Zimbabwe's capital market will take up the challenge and be shaped by some of these forces. This is the vision that should guide every reform, every investment, and every decision that Securities and Exchange Commission will make in the years ahead. The 2025 annual report provides compelling evidence that the Commission is already moving in the right direction. Furthermore, the National Development Strategy 2 prioritizes capital markets deepening as key in ensuring Zimbabwe's economic transformation. Bank financing alone cannot meet the scale of long-term capital required to build infrastructure, energize productive sectors, and lift living standards. A vibrant debt market, dynamic equity markets, innovative investment vehicles, strong institutional investors, and genuine participation by ordinary citizens, emerging enterprises, and the diaspora would therefore be key enablers. I commend the Commission for the concrete progress recorded in 2025, which highlight the following achievements, among others. The significance of the the signing of the Memorandum of Agreement with the National University of Science and Technology as the founding step towards establishing the Capital Market Institute. This institute is far more than a training facility if properly resourced and strategically positioned. It has the potential to become the intellectual and professional heartbeat of Zimbabwe's capital market, producing skilled regulators, competent intermediaries, sophisticated analysts, informed investors, and innovative product designers that a modern market naturally demands. Secondly, the amendment of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe Act through the Finance Act number 7 of 2025 to incorporate the licensing and the regulation of virtual asset and virtual asset service providers is a landmark development as it enables regulation of virtual asset service providers in line with the anti-money laundering standards. This move will also ensure inclusion of digital assets, tokenization of real-world assets, blockchain-based securities, and smart contract-enabled instruments. Securities and Exchange Commission is therefore expected to come up with a robust regulatory framework for virtual assets and virtual assets service providers. I challenge the board and management to be ambitious in building a capital market institute of regional distinction. The Commission's financial performance in 2025 reflects both the resiliency and the pressures of the operating environment. Notwithstanding these, the Commission maintained financial stability through prudent financial management and disciplined expenditure control. I therefore commend the board, management, and staff for the hard work. Going forward, the Commission should continue to focus on revenue diversification, operational efficiency, and long-term financial sustainability. Regulatory supervision must migrate from periodic paper-based reviews to real-time data-powered oversight. Market surveillance must harness advanced analytics and artificial intelligence to detect manipulation, insider trading, and systematic risk before they crystallize. In this respect, licensing, compliance monitoring, enforcement, and investor services should be digitized, streamlined, and made accessible. Furthermore, the Commission must invest in regulatory and supervisory technology capabilities, not as a distant aspiration, but as a strategic priority with clear timelines and measurable outcomes. The Commission must also spearhead the broadening of Zimbabwe's investment product landscape. Green bonds and sustainability-linked instruments, infrastructure bonds, derivatives, real estate investment trusts, exchange-traded funds, structured products, and digital securities, and present opportunities to attract new categories of capital and new classes of investors. Each instrument, if successfully introduced, expands the menu of choices available to pension funds, insurers, retail investors, small and medium enterprises, and community organizations. Financial inclusion remains a permanent pillar of the Commission's mandate and not a footnote. The capital market must be brought within reach of women, youth, small businesses, and rural communities, including informal economy. Digital platforms, mobile-enabled investment products, and accessible investor education programs are the bridges that connect ordinary Zimbabweans to capital market opportunities. I therefore urge the Commission to design these bridges with intention and urgency. The Victoria Falls Stock Exchange and the International Financial Services Center represent another frontier of strategic importance. Zimbabwe's ambition to build a world-class offshore financial services hub requires a seamless, coordinated regulatory framework, one that is globally competitive while maintaining the highest standards of transparency, anti-money laundering compliance, and investor protection. Governance remains a non-negotiable foundation on which all of this must be built. I note key leadership transitions during 2025, including the expiry of terms of office for the former chairman, Commissioner Yona Banda, and the former vice chairperson, Commissioner Ethel Chitanda, and the resignation of former chief executive officer, Mr. Enimo Taruvinga. I pay tribute to their service and their contribution to the development of Zimbabwe's capital markets. I equally acknowledge and congratulate Commissioner Patel on his appointment as chairman and Commissioner William Manmanzi as the vice chairman, as well as Professor Mabuto Sibanda on the renewal of his term. The new leadership inherits both a strong foundation and a bold agenda. I trust they will lead the Commission with strategic ambition, institutional discipline, and integrity that this moment demands. I urge the Commission to continue observing the highest standards of governance, rigorous board processes, proactive risk management, responsive audit practices, disciplined expenditure controls, and full compliance with the public entities' corporate governance framework. As I conclude, let me reiterate the government's commitment to strengthening legislative reforms, institutional support, policy alignment, and investment in the enabling infrastructure that a modern capital market requires. This will require innovation, integrity, determination by the board and management. With these remarks, once again, I commend the board, management, and staff of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe for their hard work in 2025. I thank you.
Thank you very much for the remarks, Mr. Zata, on behalf of the Ministry of Finance. Your continued support, guidance, and engagement remain critical as we work to strengthen and develop Zimbabwe's capital markets. In particular, we wish to extend our gratitude and thank you to the Honorable Minister Mthuli Ncube for his leadership, guidance, and support he has granted to SECZim over the year and continues to be a strong advocate in the transformation and development of the capital markets. Today's proceedings have reaffirmed the shared commitment of government, fellow regulators, market participants, investors, and other stakeholders to the growth, integrity, and stability of our market. We acknowledge the progress made while recognizing that significant work still lies ahead. As the SEC Zimbabwe, we remain steadfast in our mandate to regulate, supervise, and promote the development of fair, efficient, transparent, and orderly capital markets. We will continue to align our priorities with national development objectives, embrace responsible innovation, and uphold sound governance and international regulatory standards. On behalf of the board of the Commission, I sincerely thank you for attending and participating in this AGM. Your continued commitment to the development and integrity of Zimbabwe's capital markets is greatly appreciated. There being no further business, I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much. If I can hand over to Farai to take us through the rest.
Thank you very much, Chairman and Commissioners, Management, and all attendees, with special thanks to our parent ministry. There are a couple of concluding formalities which we would like to do very quickly. And the first one will shortly be the closing prayer from our colleague Fidelis Msemburi. At the same time, we will be inviting you to join us for lunch in a restaurant back in the main building of the hotel called The Kitchen. It's on the left of the lobby. However, we would also like to be able to do some group photographs with our statutory attendees, our commissioners and management. So we're trying to manage all of those moving parts and also recognizing that it's been a long morning. So I would invite the VIPs at the appropriate time to then please remain with us at the front of the room. And I'm sure Talent, you'll get the team ready to bring chairs and backdrops, etc., to manage the photography at the front. So for now, Fidelis, if you could get a mic, if you don't already have one, please can you provide us with a closing prayer for this morning?
May I kindly ask that we all stand up and bow our heads. Let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you, Lord, for the grace that you have given us to be able to organize and conduct this annual general meeting. As we come to the close of this AGM, Lord, we thank you, oh God, for the successes of the past year. We trust you, oh God, again for more successes for the ensuing year. As we go our separate ways, oh God, we pray that you continue to protect us, you guide us, and keep us safe. We pray that you grant us peace, oh God. Lord, bless the SECZim team and bless the leadership. We also pray, Lord, that you bless Zimbabwe. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
We may take our seats.
Thank you so much, Fidelis. And as he takes his seat, let me thank our colleague, Mr. Mtete, with a warm round of applause, please, for the excellent job that he has done. But perhaps we can use what he has taught us this morning on a basic level to thank him. Thank you very much. Chairman, we've come to the end of proceedings. People can feel free to stand and relax. However, we are setting up the front part of the room for our statutories, our commissioners and management to please join us in a coordinated photo shoot. Those who are sitting in their chairs are free to stand and mingle. You will shortly be ushered to our lunchtime venue, and I'm sure the appropriate persons are ready and deployed to do that. Thank you very much. There will be a small token of appreciation, a very modest token of appreciation, as you have seen that our results and the encouragement and rejoinder is for prudence in our expenditure. But at the same time, I would like to end on the line provided us by Vazata, who said that for this strong foundation and the bold agenda requires precisely the people in this room, and we thank you all. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Well done. Well done. Thank you so much. Power.